The morning sun has just risen, waking up the sleepy and damp forest and all its creatures within it. Salutations, they say to one another as they stretch the sleepiness from their bones. While a morning sunlight spreads throughout the forest, and as the air thickens with the sound of life, a sad leaf hangs from his branch. He watches in envy as the animals down below go about their lives, moving about as they please. Why do I have to stay in one place my entire life? He moans to himself wearily. His neighbor seems to hear his grumbling, though. Are you okay? asks his leaf neighbor. You've been quite sad for some time now. Are you still jealous of all the free roaming animals? The leaf sighs again. Yes, I am jealous. Why must we spend our days hanging from our tree when the world around us is constantly changing and moving on without us? It's not fair at all. Well, begins his neighbor, we're leaves. We've been given the blessing of living our lives high off the ground, safe from danger and all that comes with it. This is what we do. I don't understand why you want to go off into the world so badly. The leaf looks away from his neighbor and up into a clearing in the forest ceiling that peeks into the sky, unshrouded by leaves. You never wonder what life is like outside of the forest? He asks his leaf neighbor. I don't, answers the neighbor, uninterested in continuing the conversation. The leaf sighs once more and begins to search the forest for anything that could possibly pique his interest. He notices a spider spinning its web on the branches of another tree. Those poor leaves, he thinks to himself. The thought of being used in such a way is terrifying to him. Despite this, he still admired the beauty of the spider and its fluid movements as it made its home. The sound of hungry baby birds draws his attention. He looks over to see a bird feeding her little ones. She then jumps onto the edge of the nest and dives into the air, searching for something else to feed her children. I wonder if animals ever get jealous of birds. They can fly and go anywhere they want. He loses sight of the bird as she flies to the top of the trees. He searches the forest once again to try and find anything that will entertain him even a little bit. However, after failing to find anything else of interest, he decides to continue and observe the spider spin its sticky home. He realizes, to his dismay, that this will be yet another slow day, staring into nothing and counting the minutes, just like the day before and the day before that one. This was his life, and he had no choice. After a day spent gazing into nothing, the sun finally begins to fall into the horizon. However, a heavy wind seems to be picking up, and the animals are starting to scurry back into their homes as if they sense danger. This is odd and different, thought the leaf, slightly scared but thrilled as something new and interesting was taking place. As the moon starts to circle over the forest, a flash of lightning pierces the sky. The forest animals have now completely disappeared from the forest. A small, distant rumble of thunder echoes throughout the night sky. Not a single star can be seen through the heavy clouds that blanket the horizon. One drop of rain, 2, 3. In seconds, the forest is taken over by the storm. What is this? He thinks to himself, scared for his life. Any idea of excitement or awe was now crushed by an overwhelming sense of fear. The wind knocked the branches from side to side. He watches in horror as his family and friends are ripped from their branches, flying off into the rainy night. A gust of wind whips into him, and all of a sudden, he's off and into the air, hurtling away from the forest and into the dark, rainy unknown. He flips and turns, dives and glides, as the wind pushes him about, every second pushing him further and further from his forest home. The wind shoves him high up into the sky, and into the rainy clouds. This isn't what I wanted, he thinks to himself in terror. I wanted to go out and live, but not like this. My family, my friends, I'll never see them again. Suddenly, the air is calm. The stars and the moon shine down from a crystal clear sky. He looks around, confused as to where the storm had possibly gone to. A rumble from below startles him. He then looks down and realizes that there are massive black clouds below him. Spontaneous flashes of lightning glow through the thick haze every so often. I am above the storm, he thinks to himself, still too traumatized to feel any real sense of relief. So he flies in complete silence through the night sky for several hours, caressed by the wind. I suppose this is freedom, he thinks to himself solemnly, away from the family. Away from family and friends, all alone. This doesn't feel very nice, though. With sad, lonely thoughts, he drifts off to sleep underneath the crystal night sky, the low echoes of thunder lulling him to sleep. He wakes up to the sensation of falling and the sound of lively birds chirping away. It is now day, and he is no longer in the forest. As he drops, he sees cars driving about on black roads and humans walking at their own paces. A large grassy opening comes into view while he descends. He begins to float down towards a woman who seems to be reading underneath a tall tree. He lands gently on her book. He stares up at her face in awe. Her floppy hat casts shade on her young, mature face. She has kind, gentle eyes, yet a sharp glint of intelligence can still be seen through her soft gaze. What a beautiful leaf, she sighs to herself. She picks him up and twirls him between her finger and thumb. Where on earth did you come from? She slowly places him back onto the book. You're gonna be my new bookmark, she says happily. You're gonna be my new bookmark, she says happily. She closes the book and stands up, brushing off any debris or grass she may have picked up from sitting down. She begins to walk across the park and towards the parked car, book and leaf still in hand. He looks around as the world jumps up and down along with the woman's footsteps. She opens the car door, and he finds himself being placed in the passenger seat along with the book he's inside. She gets out a pair of jingly keys and starts the car. A pair of fluffy pink dye hang from her rearview mirror. She taps her finger on the steering wheel to upbeat music. The bright floppy hat she had been wearing was now resting in the back of the car. She must be a very happy person, thought the leaf. She looks like one. The car suddenly came to a halt. She picks him and the book up, along with the hat in the back of this. She picks him and the book up, as well as a hat in the back of the seat, and heads toward the apartment building. Welcome home, she whispers to him rather solemnly. She opens the door to her apartment, revealing a dark and rather empty space. She heads towards the bedroom and places the book that he is still currently in. Oh, sorry. Welcome home, she whispers to him rather solemnly. She opens the door to the apartment, revealing a dark and rather empty space. She heads toward the bedroom and places the book that he is still in currently on the nightstand. She changes into a pair of different clothes, grabs a bag, and walks out of the bedroom. In a few moments, he hears the apartment door open and close. He was all alone now. I suppose I should explore my new home, the leaf thinks excitedly to himself. The room he is now in is rather small. The bed takes up most of the room, as does the dresser. To the side of the bedroom is a door that leads to a bathroom. My first human home is rather small. I love it, he thinks. His eyes continue to wander, absorbing all the new sights and shapes that lay out before him. A pair of large pants are strewn across the floor next to the dresser. A book that rests on the bed reads baby names. A red light blinks in exact intervals on the TV that is hung up on the wall. And that was it. There are no spiders to watch as they make their webby homes. There are no birds singing their lovely songs to listen. There are no bird songs to listen to. No fireflies to admire as they zip around in the air. I love it here, he thinks to himself, content regardless of the rather dull surroundings. He was out of the forest, and he was happy. A few hours pass, and the sun is starting to set outside, when the woman enters the bedroom again. Her once soft and serious face now bears a look of sadness and, possibly, anger. What could be wrong, he thinks to himself. She paces back and forth as she talks into her cellular device. Pick up the phone, she yells into it. You can't keep doing this. She throws the small device onto the bed and covers her mouth as tears fall down her red, puffy face. I thought she was happy. She's supposed to be happy, thinks the leaf in disbelief. Please don't be sad. Wear your hobby flat again. Wear your floppy hat again, he thinks to himself. She goes into the kitchen, makes herself some food, and crawls back into the bed to watch television as she eats. Finally, after her show ends, she turns off the lights and goes to bed. Hours pass in the darkness. The leaf watches the red light blinking on the TV as he starts to finally doze off. Loud banging on the apartment door shakes him awake immediately. The woman yelps in surprise as she also has been woken up. She jumps out of bed and runs into the living room to answer the door. The sound of bickering instantly ensues. A large man stumbles into the bedroom, slurring and waving his hand at the woman as if to shoo her away, as though she were some kind of inconvenience. How long are you going to keep doing this? This is ridiculous, yells the woman. Act your age for once in your life. Her voice raises so high, the leaf shivers in fear. You don't understand the stress I go through every day, slurs the man. I work endless hours, and every week you reward me with bickering. I'm tired of living like this, Aaron, screams the woman. The man turns to her and scrunches his face in anger. The man turns to her and scrunches his face in anger. When are you gonna stop being such a... In what takes a split second, the woman reaches for the book that the leaf is occupying and hurls it towards the man. The man ducks out of the way at the last second. The window is now the new destination of the book and the leaf. The piercing sound of shattering glass and the sensation of falling overtakes the leaf. The book pages open up, releasing him into the wind once more. And he was off, flying through the sky with no control, going wherever the wind decides to take him. No, he thinks to himself, I need to go back. She's sad, and that scary man is making her angry. He becomes angry with the wind. He's reminded again that he still has no freedom as to where he wants to go. Heading off into the opposite direction, he looks back to see the young woman running out of the building and getting into her car. She drives away as a large man runs after her, pleading for her to come back. And just like that, They were out of the leaf's sight forever. Is this life? Fighting and sadness? He thinks to himself, still taken over by emotions of fear, anger, and sadness. He had never felt these emotions before and didn't quite know what to call them. What are these feelings? This can't be good for my health. I might die, it's too much. I hope that woman is safe. His mixed emotions envelop into one deep sadness as he glides away in the cool night air. There must be more to life than this, he thinks as he drifts off into a much-needed slumber. The glint of soft morning sun wakes him up. The air is still foggy and damp, however, and the moon can still be seen setting in the distance. He's falling again. This time he spots a boy wearing a backpack standing next to a stop sign. The leaf slips into the boy's hoodie. My home is now on a human's neck, thinks the leaf. Life is quite random. A school bus stops in front of the boy, its doors opening, releasing a musty smell of cheap vinyl. He gets on and finds an empty seat. The bus makes a few more stops along the way to allow other children and teenagers on before it makes its final stop in front of a school. The boy waits for everyone to get off the bus before he decides to get up and leave as well. He enters the large school doors and is greeted by a low roar created by hundreds of students talking and laughing. He makes his way down the hall, past the cafeteria, and into an empty, dimly lit classroom. He walks to the back of the room and sits in his desk, places his backpack on the desk's surface, and places his head on it. He must be very tired, thinks the leaf as he looks around the room. A poster in the front of the classroom reads, "Keep calm and study on." There are about a dozen desks placed in neat rows around the room, and a smudged chalkboard in the front. The light flickers on as an older man wearing glasses walks in. "Taking another nap before homeroom, again I see," he says to the boy as he places his small briefcase on the ground. The boy lifts his head up and nods, "Yes, sir." He places his head back onto his backpack, slowly but surely. The room begins to fill up with students, some laughing with a friend, others tired and grumpy. "Good morning, class," begins the teacher. The leaf looks around at the students, some interested in the teacher's lecture, others taking notes, others drawing hearts and stars. The bell rings after some time, and everyone gets up and leaves. Once again, the boy waits for everyone to leave before he does so himself. As the day drags on, the leaf notices that the boy always seems to pick a spot in the back of the room, away from everyone else. He never raises his hands to answer any questions that the teacher asks, and he always stays a safe distance from other teenagers. He hasn't spoken much at all, thinks the leaf, a bit worried. I always had my friends and family back in the forest. Leaves stick together no matter what. That's how we live. But this human is all by himself, despite the fact that he's surrounded by many other humans. I hope he's okay. "All right," says the boy's teacher during fourth period. "Time for lunch. I won't repeat myself again, though. Be back before the tardy bell." In an instant, all the students shot up from their desks and left the room, all of them excited to finally rest their minds from learning. The boy, as usual, waits for them all to leave the room first. He makes his way to the cafeteria. All the students seem to have a specific spot at certain tables. They also only seem to talk to certain groups of people. The boy finds an empty table and begins to eat by himself. The leaf watches as everyone passes by as if the boy is invisible. Does he want this? Thinks the leaf. Does this make him content? Why do the others ignore him? Is he defective? He seems to be a perfectly functioning human. If I could talk to him, I would keep him company. After some time, the bell rings, and everyone begins to pack up to go back to class. The boy picks up his empty tray and sets it in the dirty tray pile. He quickly walks back to the classroom. This time, he doesn't wait for everyone to leave first. He's the first one to get back to class. He sits at his desk in the back of the classroom. His teacher seems to notice. "Jeremy," says the teacher, peering from his desk, "are you okay?" Jeremy shifts and looks over at him. "Yes, I'm fine," he says in a flat but clear voice. The teacher pauses, his eyes glancing down at his desk and then back at Jeremy. "If you ever need to talk, I'm always here, okay? And if you ever need a break, you can always eat lunch in here." Jeremy opens his backpack and begins to take out his folders for class. "Thank you," he replies. The day went on, each class the same. Jeremy sat in the back. Class would start, and then class would end. The leaf felt very sad for him. He was always alone. It's finally the end of the long day, and the buses are stopping by to pick up the students to take them home. Jeremy gets onto the bus and finds an empty seat by himself. The bus finally makes its stop at Jeremy's corner. He gets off and begins to walk home. Suddenly, a voice calls from behind, "Jeremy." He looks behind to see a girl running up to him. "Sorry I didn't sit with you on the bus," she says with a small frown. "My friend is kind of needy and wanted to talk about some drama she's going through. It was mostly stupid." "It's okay," says Jeremy. The girl pulls out a bar and begins to unwrap it. "By the way, my mom wants to know if you want her to start driving you to school." She takes a bite from her bar as she tucks her hair behind her ear. "She always takes me in the morning and wouldn't mind taking you too." "I hate the bus," says the boy with a smile. "Your mom would be saving my life if she drove me to school." He laughs. A laugh, thinks the leaf. He finally laughed. He shivers with happiness. He quivers with happiness. Maybe he's not completely alone. Maybe he can be happy. "What is this?" says the girl as she reaches for Jeremy's hoodie. "How long has this been here?" She plucks a leaf from the boy's jacket. "All day?" She starts to laugh. "Nobody thought to, tell you?" The boy grins, shrugging without an answer. "It's very pretty, though," she says as she spins the leaf between her fingers. "Be free." She tosses him into the wind. They continue walking down the sidewalk as the leaf takes off into the air and back into the sky, their laughter still echoing in the air. "Please continue to laugh," thinks the leaf. I hope you find other wonderful humans to spend your time with. Good luck." And with that, he was back into the mercy of the wind. He notices that his leafy coat is now beginning to change colors. His edges and curves are now turning into blotchy oranges, reds, and browns. I wanted to leave my tree, but now I'm starting to think that was a bad idea. So far, this world is kind of sad and lonely. I thought life was supposed to be fun and happy. Also, I wanted to move on my own, but I'm still completely helpless. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to move whenever I want to move. I wish I had legs. I'm not like the other animals I was so jealous of. I have no control of where I go. The leaf was now high in the sky with the birds. He looks down at the world below him. So many lives being lived, all separate yet connected to one another. I don't want this anymore, he thinks. Life is too sad. Then, an unexpected current takes over, tipping the leaf down back towards the earth. He hurtles down and dives into what looks like a pink cart with wheels. A chubby human baby is staring at him suddenly, and he soon realizes that he is inside of a baby cart. A woman pushes the cart along the sidewalk, while a little girl dances next to her father. They all seem to be walking together. The woman smiles and leans towards the man, saying, "Please tell your daughter to calm down a bit." The man nods. Okay. Suddenly, he starts dancing along with the girl, making silly faces and noises. The woman laughs. "You're ridiculous." The leaf watches in utter amazement. Wow. These people actually seem very happy. I like these humans a lot. Maybe I misunderstood this world. Maybe it is possible for life to be fun. However, to his dismay, the wind picks up again, and he was back in the air. So much for a happy life, he thinks to himself, rather angrily. As he tosses and turns in the air, he notices an open window fast approaching. With a big gust from the wind, he bursts in. He lands on a white counter underneath a vase filled with flowers. Several other leaves are resting next to him. "Hello," he says excitedly and eagerly. "I am so incredibly happy to meet your acquaintance. You wouldn't believe the journey I've been on." Silence. "Hello?" he asks, a bit confused by the lack of response from the leaves. Suddenly, a woman dressed in blue comes rushing into the room to close the window. She turns to a girl he hadn't noticed before, who was laying in bed. "It's way too windy, honey. We're gonna have to close the window for now, okay?" A weary, angry sigh comes from the girl. "I feel trapped." The nurse takes a deep breath and sighs. "You'll feel better soon, I promise." She then leaves the room. "Is this girl okay?" the leaf asks himself as he looks her over. The room is mostly white and very sterile from the looks of it. The ceiling has rectangular lights that hold a strong and steady glow. Several "Get Well Soon" cards are placed around the room. The desk next to her bed has a teddy bear holding a big red heart. He then notices several vases filled with flowers, placed in various corners. He looks back at the leaves next to him. "Hello?" Still no response. He looks up at the flowers standing in the vase. "Why do your leaves not talk?" The flowers are also silent. They have no sense of life in them whatsoever. "These plants are nothing like the ones back at home," he thinks to himself sadly. Home. For the first time, he begins to truly miss his tree. He begins to miss his branch and his neighbor that would always listen to his complaining. He begins to miss his old life. A woman enters the room carrying a white box with a plastic spoon and fork on top of it. "Here you go, sweetie," she says as she hands the box to the little girl. "Here you go, sweetie," she says as she hands the box to the girl. "You didn't say what sauce you wanted, so I got you sweet and sour on the side." A woman enters the room carrying a white box with a plastic spoon and fork on top of it. "Here you go, sweetie," she says as she hands the box to the girl. "You didn't say what sauce you wanted, so I got you sweet and sour on the side." The girl takes the box and opens it. "That's fine, thank you," she says solemnly. She takes a bite of food, staring at the window. The nurse closed it again. The woman slowly walks over to the window and opens it only slightly. The girl shakes her head. "No, all the way, please." "Bailey, it's getting cold outside. You know that, and it's getting very windy. Now leave it cracked a bit." "If I could walk over and do it myself, I would have it all the way open." Tears fall from the girl's angry red face. The woman covers her mouth and stands still. unable to speak or respond. Silence hangs heavy in the air for what seems to be an eternity. The girl puts the food on the nightstand next to her. I'm not hungry. The woman takes a deep breath. We'll get through this, I promise. Your dad and I love you so much, and we're so proud of how you're being, and we're so proud of how brave you're being right now. I understand. The woman's voice breaks. I understand how difficult things may be for you right now, but you're so incredibly creative. I know you'll be able to turn the situation. Please, says the girl in a small, broken voice, her eyes wet and puffy from crying. I can't. She wipes her face and folds her arms, staring at the wall, as if she were concentrating on retaining her tears. The woman tucks her arms close to her body and takes in a sharp, shaky breath. You're right. I'll give you some space. She rushes out the room, her eyes just as red and puffy as her daughter's. The Leaf watches as the girl curls up in bed and stares at the window. She can't move. She's just like me, he thinks to himself. He watches her for several days after. As she stares out the window longingly, he watches as she fakes smiles and laughs with her friends and family who visit her. He watches her as she stays up all night, wiping the tears she so desperately tries to keep inside. I think she's broken, he thinks to himself. One day, a nurse comes in wearing gloves and carrying a broom. She begins to dust the counters, sweep the floor, and collect the fallen leaves from underneath all the vases. She finally stops in front of the vase that he sits under, and she begins to wipe the leaves off. Right before she reaches him, Bailey shouts, "Wait!" The nurse, startled, looks back at Bailey. What? That one looks different. She points at him. The nurse lifts him up and looks him over. You're right, she says. It must have flown in from whenever the window was open. Can I see it? Asks the girl. Of course, Bailey. The nurse hands her the leaf. She flips him from front and back, admiring his blotchy red and brown details. Are there ways to turn things into keychains or necklaces? Asks Bailey. The nurse laughs with a lighthearted smile. I thought you were the arts and crafts girl. You should know. That was before I was hit by a car. It's not like I'm paralyzed or anything, says Bailey with a straight face. The nurse, stunned, clears her throat and continues cleaning. Bailey, you know I was messing around. We all know you're a very creative young woman, and you still are. The girl shifts uncomfortably. She lifts the leaf in the air. Isn't it so pretty? She asks, trying to change the subject. The next day, Bailey's mother walks in and gives her a hug. Only a little longer until you can come home, she says excitedly. This is what I was texting you about, says Bailey, as she lifts the leaf up into view. Do you think you could find a place that, preserves leaves? Maybe turns them into, a necklace or something? Her mother picks him up from her daughter's hand. I can look around, she says. This is gorgeous. I don't even know what kind of plant this could have come from. She pauses and looks at her daughter again. Have they been letting you practice in the wheelchair at all? Yes, says Bailey, engrossed with the video she's watching on her cell phone. Her mother stands there for a second, a look on her face as though she wants to say more. But she clears her throat and heads towards the door. I'll be back soon, honey. Bailey looks up from her phone. Okay. The woman puts him in a book and then into her purse as to keep him from crumbling. He was becoming very brittle now, and his orange and red blotches were now bright and vivid. His once fresh and green shine was now long gone. For several hours, he hears muffled noises coming from outside the woman's purse. Suddenly, he feels himself being dragged up and out of the purse. The woman opens the book and takes him out of the pages. They seem to be in some kind of jewelry shop. A man is staring at him from behind a counter. Can you do anything with this? She asks the man while holding the leaf. The man takes the leaf and nods. Definitely, I'd be happy to. Did your daughter want a pendant or a necklace? Wait. Did your daughter want a pendant for a necklace? He asks. She nods. That's what she's saying. Ask your daughter what kind of design she wants and we'll discuss how long. Ask your daughter what kind of design she wants and we'll discuss how we'll go about it. It shouldn't take too long. The mother finishes her conversation with the man and leaves. Wow, says the man as he looks down at the leaf. You're really something else, aren't you? Several days pass, and he is no longer what he used to be. His brittle body was now covered and preserved by a shiny layer of glass. On the top of his glass shell, there is now a sparkling chain. The man places him in a small, dark case and hands him to Bailey's mother. A few hours pass in darkness, when finally the lid opens again. The leaf watches as Bailey's face lights up as she peers down at him. The girl who had looked so broken and so gray was now glowing. Her eyes were no longer red and puffy, but clear and gleaming. Her cheeks were no longer hot, but dimpled from smiling. She places his chain around her neck and clasps it. It's beautiful, Mom, thank you. Your dad is on his way. Are you ready to go? Asks the mother. Bailey nods, placing her hands on the wheels that rest on both of her sides. Her mother opens the door for her as she rolls out in her wheelchair. This is life, thinks the leaf. I'm home. So I want to, apologize. This took like a really, really long time, and it's been about a week and a half since I posted a video. Writing, unfortunately, takes me a while to do because I'm kind of OCD about it. Anyways, this video is for everybody, of course, but it's also especially for Zach Weaver because he requested it, and I don't know, it was kind of cool because I was thinking of doing a reading video, and then he kind of suggested it at like the perfect time, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're twinning right now, and yeah. Anyways, that is pretty much it, and I will see you guys very, very soon.